All right, so ready for a cinematic showdown?
Let's do it.
We're going to be looking at two Oscar ceremonies, 2012 and 2022.
Okay.
And we're using information directly from the Academy Awards website.
Perfect.
So whether you're getting ready for a debate or you just like movies, this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, looking at two different years a decade apart, we can really see how things changed.
Yeah, and it's not just about who won.
Right.
It's about the trends, the surprises.
Exactly. And maybe even predict the future a little bit,
Okay, so let's start with 2012.
Okay.
This was a big year for silent films, and I think a lot of people remember this year.
Yeah, The Artist really took everyone by surprise.
It did win Best Picture.
Best Director for Michel Hazanavicius, too.
And of course, Best Actor for Jean Dujardin.
It was quite a feat for a silent film in the 21st century.
I mean, was that common at all?
Not really, not since Wings in 1929. The Artist showed us that you don't always need dialogue to tell a powerful story.
And I think it got a lot of people interested in those older films again.
For sure, it really had an impact.
And then there was Meryl Streep winning her third Oscar.
Oh, yeah, for The Iron Lady.
Incredible performance.
Incredible. And Christopher Plummer made history, too.
He did the oldest to win an Oscar at 82 for beginners.
It was a really strong year for performances.
Absolutely. And while those are the big winners,
Right.
there were some other nominees that are worth talking about.
Yeah, like Hugo.
Oh, yeah. Directed by Scorsese.
Didn't win Best Picture,
No.
but it won 5 other Oscars.
For its technical achievements.
Exactly. The visual effects were amazing.
Yeah, I remember being blown away by that in the theater.
Totally. And then there was The Descendants with George Clooney,
Oh, yeah, that was a really moving film.
dealing with family and grief in a very real way.
And it felt very much like a 2012 film,
Yeah, strong narrative, character-driven, very classic.
Okay, so that's 2012 in a nutshell. Powerful performances, a surprise silent film win, and a focus on classic storytelling.
Sounds about right.
Now, fast forward 10 years to 2022.
All right.
What were some of the big changes you noticed?
Well, I think 2012 was about celebrating the history of film,
Okay.
but 2022 felt like looking toward the future.
Interesting.
It felt more inclusive, more diverse, and that was really exciting to see.
Yeah, and Coda really stood out that year.
Absolutely.
It won Best Picture,
Such a heartwarming story.
about a hearing daughter and a deaf family.
Exactly. And it really pushed boundaries in terms of representation.
Right, and it wasn't just the film itself. Troy Kotsur won Best Supporting Actor,
He did, becoming the second deaf actor to ever win an Oscar.
following in the footsteps of Marlee Matlin.
His Coda co-star, who won in 1987.
What a moment. And Ariana DeBose,
Oh, yeah.
winning Best Supporting Actress for West Side Story.
She made history, too.
The first Afro-Latina and openly queer woman of color to win in a major acting category.
It felt like a real turning point,
It did. 2022 was all about breaking barriers.
and the Academy really embraced that.
It felt like a much more inclusive industry.
Yeah, and it was reflected in the stories being told.
Absolutely. And of course, Jane Campion
Oh, yes.
became only the third woman ever to win Best Director,
For The Power of the Dog.
which actually got the most nominations that year, 12 in total.
A huge achievement.
And The Power of the Dog was really thought-provoking
Absolutely sparked a lot of conversation.
about gender roles and expectations.
It was a really important film.
And we can't forget Jessica Chastain
Oh, yeah.
winning Best Actress for The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
What a transformation.
She was incredible. And Will Smith,
Despite all the controversy,
yeah.
gave a powerful performance in King Richard.
Okay, so two very different Oscar years.
Yes.
2012, classic storytelling and cinematic history.
Right.
2022, inclusivity and diverse representation.
It's amazing to see how things shifted in just 10 years.
It is. Before we get into the specific categories and nominees,
Okay.
what are your initial thoughts on these two snapshots of Oscar history?
Well, it's fascinating to see how the Academy's taste evolved over that decade and the types of stories they chose to celebrate, But one thing that's clear is that both years showcase exceptional filmmaking and performances that captivated audiences worldwide. What about you? What stands out to you?
Well, I think for me, what really stands out is this idea of evolution. It's not just about the films themselves, but about how the industry itself has grown and changed over time. In 2012, we saw a celebration of classic storytelling techniques, while in 2022, the focus shifted towards a more inclusive and diverse range of voices and perspectives. It's a reminder that cinema is a living, breathing art form that's constantly evolving and reflecting the world around us.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what makes these deep dives so fascinating. It's not just about looking back, it's about understanding how these films shaped the future of cinema.
Exactly. So with that in mind, let's dive deeper into some of the specific categories and explore the range of films that were nominated in both years.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's dive into some of those categories. I'm thinking specifically about Best Animated Feature.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Animation isn't just for kids anymore, is it?
No, not at all. In 2022, we saw Encanto win.
Oh, yeah. Encanto.
A celebration of Colombian culture.
And the music was everywhere.
It was catchy, and it really appealed to all ages.
Yeah, and we can't forget Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, yeah. That one a few years earlier in 2019.
And that really showed that animation can be for everyone.
It was so innovative.
Really pushed the boundaries.
And speaking of global cinema,
Yeah.
Drive My Car, the Japanese film,
Right.
that won Best International Feature.
It was also nominated for Best Picture and Best Director.
It was such a powerful film, really transcends cultural boundaries.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
It's a slow burn, but it stays with you.
Absolutely. And I think its recognition in multiple categories
Right.
shows that the Academy is embracing those international films.
Definitely in different storytelling traditions.
And then we have Summer of Soul,
Oh, yes.
which won Best Documentary Feature,
That was a revelation.
really shining a light on the 1969 Harlem Cultural Festival.
Often called Black Woodstock.
It was incredible to see that footage.
And to think it was almost lost to history,
Summer of Soul reminded us how important it is to preserve these stories.
especially in the documentary genre.
Right, where we can explore social issues and history.
Exactly. Documentaries can be so powerful.
Okay, so we've talked about 2022 celebrating diversity,
Yes,
both in front of and behind the camera.
absolutely.
Now let's go back to 2012.
All right.
Were there any categories that stood out to you then?
Well, the acting categories were amazing that year. So much talent.
Yeah, we had some incredible performances.
And I think the best foreign language film category is worth mentioning.
Okay, why is that?
Well, it was won by A Separation, an Iranian drama.
Yeah, Separation.
That was a really intense film.
It explored family justice, societal pressures.
Exactly. And it showed how film can take us to different cultures.
You really feel like you're experiencing a different world.
For sure. And while Hugo didn't win Best Picture,
Right.
it did win 5 awards for its technical aspects.
The cinematography, the art direction, those visual effects
It was a visual masterpiece.
really showcased the magic of cinema.
And then there was the Best Makeup category,
Okay.
which was later combined with Best Hairstyling.
Right.
In 2012, The Iron Lady won for its transformation of Meryl Streep.
Oh, yeah, she was unrecognizable.
It was crucial to her performance as Margaret Thatcher.
Really brought the character to life.
And the Best Picture nominees that year were really diverse.
Like The Help
Yeah, exploring race and class in the 60s.
and Moneyball,
The sports drama based on a true story.
showing how statistics can change the game.
Both of those were based on books, too.
Which is interesting, right?
Yeah, we see a lot of book adaptations at the Oscars.
It shows how different mediums can inspire each other.
For sure. Stories can be told in so many ways.
Okay, so we've looked at the categories.
Yes.
Explore the nominees.
Right?
Now, what about the winners?
Okay, so in 2022, the big winners were Coda,
Of course.
Dune, and The Power of the Dog.
Quite a mix,
They're all very different.
but they all tell great stories.
And they feature incredible performances.
And Dune especially was visually stunning.
Yeah, the special effects were amazing.
Really transported you to another world.
And I think all of those films resonated with audiences on an emotional level.
Yeah, they made you think. They made you feel.
And they stayed with you long after the credits rolled.
Now, what about the 2012 winners?
Okay, so we had The Artist,
The Silent Charmer,
The Iron Lady, with its historical and political weight.
and beginners exploring love and self-discovery later in life.
They all offered unique perspectives.
But it's interesting how those 2012 winners
Yeah,
feel more traditional in their storytelling,
I see what you mean.
while the 2022 winners,
Right.
they feel more experimental.
More willing to push boundaries.
Maybe it's just a sign of the times.
It could be the industry is always evolving.
Okay, so we've talked about the categories, the nominees, the winners,
We've covered a lot.
but there's one more thing I want to mention.
What's that?
Those actors and directors who were nominated in both years.
Oh, yeah, the repeat nominees.
That's always interesting to see.
It shows a real dedication to their craft.
A consistency of excellence.
Exactly. And it's not easy to do in such a competitive industry.
So let's start with the actors. Any familiar faces popping up in both 2012 and 2022?
Well, Gary Oldman comes to mind.
Oh, yeah, good one.
He was nominated in 2012 for Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Right, best actor.
But Jean Dujardin won for The Artist.
Ah, yes.
But then in 2022, Oldman finally wins
He does.
for his portrayal of Winston Churchill in Darkest Hour.
What a performance.
It was incredible, really showed his range as an actor.
Talk about a long-awaited victory.
It proves that you should never give up on your dreams.
And were there any actresses who had a similar journey?
Yeah, Jessica Chastain.
Oh, yeah.
She was nominated for Best Supporting Actress in 2012 for The Help. And then 10 years later, she wins Best Actress.
The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
What a transformation.
It's interesting that both her nominations were for biographical roles.
You're right. Maybe she has a knack for playing real-life figures.
It's definitely a specific skill.
For sure, you have to really embody the person.
Right, so what about the directors?
Okay.
Any repeat nominees there?
Well, Kenneth Branagh stands out.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking of him, too.
He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in 2012.
For My Week with Marilyn.
Right. He was so charming in that film.
And then in 2022, he gets nominations for Best Director and Best Original Screenplay.
For Belfast.
Talk about a multi-talented
Which is
individual.
amazing, right?
From acting to directing to writing.
He clearly has a passion for storytelling.
It's inspiring to see that kind of evolution.
It's a reminder that there are so many ways to contribute to the world of film.
And sometimes it takes time for those talents to be fully recognized.
Absolutely.
Well, it's been fascinating to take this deep dive into the Oscars of 2012 and 2022. We've seen how the industry has changed.
How the Academy's tastes have evolved.
And how storytelling itself has transformed.
But it's important to remember that these awards,
Right.
they're just a small snapshot of the world of cinema.
There are so many great films out there.
That may not have won awards, but are still worth watching.
And what might be overlooked one year.
Could be celebrated the next.
And both subjective in the end.
Right, it's up to each individual to decide what they connect with.
To explore different genres
Yeah.
to keep the conversation going.
Exactly. There's always something new to discover.
So, for our listeners who are eager to expand their cinematic horizons,
Yes.
do you have any final recommendations?
Okay, let's see. For 2012, I would recommend Moonrise Kingdom,
Oh, Moonrise Kingdom.
directed by Wes Anderson.
I love Wes Anderson.
It's a coming-of-age story with a really unique visual style.
He's a master of creating those immersive worlds.
Exactly. And for 2022, I would suggest The Worst Person in the World.
Okay.
It's a Norwegian film nominated for Best International Feature.
Interesting.
It's a romantic comedy drama that explores modern relationships.
Sounds relatable.
It's beautifully shot, too.
Both excellent choices. I'm adding those to my watch list.
There's always something new to discover.
Whether it's a classic or a hidden gem.
So keep exploring, keep watching.
And keep those conversations about film alive.
Couldn't agree more.
That wraps up our deep dive into the Oscars of 2012 and 2022.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been fun to reminisce about these films.
And to see how they've shaped the cinematic landscape.
Absolutely.
We hope you enjoyed this journey through Oscar history
I hope so.
and that you're feeling inspired to revisit some of these movies.
Or to discover some new ones.
Until next time, happy watching.
Happy watching.